The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched across 3 kilometers of polished crystal floors. 12 massive chairs surrounded a central platform where decisions that affected trillions of lives were made. Today, those chairs held the most powerful beings in the galaxy, and they were all angry about the same thing: humans. Ambassador Kethvar stood at the speaking platform, his blue skin shimmering with frustration. Behind him, a holographic display showed hundreds of messages from human colonies, human traders, and human explorers. Each message was marked with the same red symbol that meant unnecessary interference. "Look at this," Kethvar said, pointing at the display. "In the last month alone, humans have sent us 47 suggestions for improving our trade routes. They want to help with the Zorblot mining dispute. They offered to mediate the Crystalline Collective's border problems. And yesterday, they sent us a recipe for something called pizza." The other ambassadors made sounds of disgust. The Ethereal Dominion's representative, a being made of pure energy, flickered with annoyance. They never stopped talking, always asking questions, always wanting to help with things that are not their business. For 300 years, it had been the same story. Humans would hear about a problem somewhere in the galaxy and immediately want to fix it. They sent their ships to places where they were not invited. They made friends with species that other civilizations avoided. They solved problems in ways that made no sense to anyone else. The worst part was that their strange solutions usually worked. Counselor Velthane of the Ethereal Dominion spoke next. Her voice sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "The humans make everything complicated. Before they joined the galaxy, we had order, we had peace, we had silence. Beautiful, peaceful silence," agreed the representative from the Zephyrian hegemony. The Altarian Trade Confederation's ambassador nodded his massive head. "Their constant chatter disrupts our meditation cycles, our business deals, our very way of life." Dr. Veltara from the Nexari Imperium pulled up more data. Statistical analysis shows that communication traffic has increased by 3,000% since humans entered galactic society. Most of this increase comes from human sources. "They ask too many questions," complained the delegate from the Silicon Authority. "Why this? Why that? What if we tried something different? It never ends." The Void Whisper's representative, a shadow-like being, spoke in barely audible tones. "They make noise where there should be quiet. They bring chaos where there should be order." Kethvar raised his arms for attention. "Today, we have the power to fix this problem. We can restore the peace that our ancestors enjoyed for millions of years." He gestured to a technician who brought up a new display. This one showed the quantum communication network that connected every civilized world in the galaxy. Bright lines of light linked thousands of systems, but one small cluster near the edge glowed with unusual intensity. "The Sol System," Kethvar announced, "home to Earth and 47 human colonies. The source of 92% of unsolicited communications in our network." The hall fell silent as the implications became clear. "I propose that we disconnect the human systems from our communication network," Kethvar continued. "Permanently, let them talk to themselves. Let them ask their endless questions in the silence of their own small corner of space." The vote was swift and unanimous. 12 species that had never agreed on anything before all voted the same way. Within hours, technicians across the galaxy began shutting down quantum relays. Communication arrays went dark. The constant stream of human messages slowed to a trickle, then stopped completely. In the Galactic Council chambers, the ambassadors smiled for the first time in centuries. The blessed silence they had dreamed of finally returned. But in the outer, rim territories where human patrol ships had been monitoring for pirates, something else returned too. Ships with no identification codes began appearing on sensor screens. Trade vessels started disappearing. Distress calls went unanswered because the humans who usually responded to them never received the messages. On the crystal moon of Altair 7, pirates attacked a mining station. The station's automated defenses followed standard protocols, but the attackers used tactics that seemed almost random. They hit the station from 6 different angles, retreated when the defenses focused on them, then attacked from completely different positions. The defense systems could not understand this behavior. Pirates were supposed to attack in predictable patterns. These attackers seemed to change their minds every few minutes. 3 systems away, a crystalline collective mining ship encountered an asteroid field that behaved strangely. The rocks moved in patterns that their computers could not predict. Standard navigation protocols failed. The ship's AI requested instructions from the home system, but no one had ever seen anything like this before. In the past, they would have sent a message to nearby human ships. Humans were good at dealing with unexpected problems. They had strange ideas that somehow worked, but now there were no humans to ask. The mining ship spent 3 days trying to navigate the asteroid field using logical algorithms. On the 4th day, it collided with a rock that moved in a way that the computer said was impossible. Similar reports began arriving from across the galaxy, but they were scattered and seemed unimportant. A failed trade negotiation here, a communication breakdown there, small problems that would normally be solved quickly. The Galactic Council received these reports but paid little attention. These were minor issues compared to the great achievement of finally having peace and quiet. Ambassador HFY stood in his private chambers looking out at the stars. For the first time in decades, his communication console was silent. No messages from humans asking about this or that. No requests for help with problems that were not their concern. It was exactly what he had wanted. But as he watched the stars, he noticed something strange. The usual traffic patterns seemed different. Ships were taking longer routes between systems. Some trade vessels had stopped moving altogether. He dismissed these thoughts. The galaxy was simply adjusting to its new state of perfect order. Soon everything would run smoothly without human interference. On Earth, President Martinez received the final report from Admiral Chen. All attempts to contact other galactic civilizations had failed. Every quantum relay had been shut down simultaneously. They cut us off completely, Admiral Chen said. No warning, no explanation. We're on our own. President Martinez nodded slowly. Then we adapt. We always do. Expand our local networks. Make contact with species in our region. Build what we need. Admiral Chen smiled. The Galactic Council might be surprised by what we can accomplish when we put our minds to it. In the Great Hall of the Galactic Council, the ambassadors went about their business in wonderful silence. They made decisions without constant human questions. They planned trade routes without human suggestions for improvement. Everything was exactly as it should be. But in the depths of space, in the quiet corners where no one was watching, small problems were starting to grow into bigger ones. The galaxy was learning what silence really meant. 6 months had passed since the communication blackout began. In the Galactic Council chambers, Ambassador HFY reviewed the monthly reports with satisfaction. The numbers showed exactly what he had hoped to see. Communication traffic was down 94%. Complaints about noise and interference had dropped to 0. Perfect silence at last. But then Captain Zorak of the Altarian Trade Confederation burst into the chamber without an appointment. His usually calm species was known for their politeness, so his sudden appearance caught everyone off guard. "We have a problem," Zorak announced, his voice trembling with worry. "A big problem." HFY frowned. "Captain, proper procedure requires that you schedule time to address the council through the appropriate channels." "There are no appropriate channels left," Zorak replied. "That's the problem." He activated the chamber's holographic display, showing a map of the major trade routes in the Altarian sector. Red warning symbols marked dozens of locations where attacks had occurred. "Pirates have hit 37 of our cargo ships in the last month," Zorak explained. "But these aren't normal pirate attacks. They use tactics we've never seen before." The display zoomed in on one attack site. Security footage showed 3 small ships attacking a massive cargo vessel. Instead of the direct assault that pirates usually preferred, these attackers split up, hit different sections of the ship, then regrouped and attacked from a completely different angle. "They're unpredictable," Zorak continued. "Our defense systems can't figure out what they'll do next because they seem to change their plans constantly." Counselor Velthane leaned forward in her energy chair. Surely your security forces can handle simple pirates. We've tried everything, Zorak said. Standard defense patterns, advanced tactical algorithms, even hired mercenaries. Nothing works. These pirates think differently than anyone we've encountered. He paused, looking uncomfortable. The attacks remind us of something, but we can't figure out what. In the Crystalline Collective's home system, senior analyst Kektar faced a similar puzzle. She stood before a wall of data screens showing mining operations across 17 different asteroid fields. Half of the screens flashed red with warnings. Computer, explain the navigation failures in Sector 7, she commanded. The asteroid field displays non-standard movement patterns, the computer replied in its emotionless voice. Objects move in ways that do not match gravitational models. Current navigation algorithms cannot predict safe passage. Kektar studied the data. The Crystalline Collective had been mining asteroids for thousands of years. Their methods were perfect, tested, and reliable. They had never encountered a situation their computers couldn't solve. Have we seen similar patterns before? Searching. Historical databases, the computer said. Then, after a long pause, similar successful navigation of unpredictable asteroid fields occurred 47 times in the past century. All instances involved human ships. Kektar felt something she had never experienced before. Uncertainty. How did the humans navigate these fields? Data insufficient. Human navigation methods do not follow logical patterns. Analysis suggests they used intuition, creativity, and trial and error approaches that cannot be programmed into our systems. In the research laboratories of the Nexari Imperium, Dr. Veltara was discovering her own troubling pattern. She had been analyzing the efficiency reports from various galactic operations when she noticed something strange. Every graph showed the same thing. Performance levels had been steady for months, then suddenly started declining right around the time of the communication blackout. Computer, show me the data from our diplomatic negotiations over the past year. The screen displayed a list of trade agreements, border disputes, and alliance discussions. The success rate had been dropping steadily for 6 months. What changed in our negotiation strategies during this period? No changes were made to standard diplomatic protocols, the computer answered. Dr. Veltara frowned. Then why are we failing more often? She pulled up specific examples. A trade dispute between the Zephyrian hegemony and the Silicon Authority had dragged on for months without resolution. In the past, such disagreements were usually solved within weeks. Computer, how were similar disputes resolved in previous years? Analysis shows that 73% of successful resolutions involved third-party mediation by human diplomats. What made their mediation effective? Human mediators suggested solutions that neither party had considered. Their approaches were often described as unusual, creative, or completely illogical. However, these solutions had an 87% success rate. Dr. Veltara stared at the data. She had always dismissed human diplomatic methods as chaotic and unprofessional. But the numbers didn't lie. On the outer rim of galactic civilization, Commander Thexel of the Void Watch received increasingly desperate reports from his patrol ships. The ancient enemy known as the Void Hunters had begun probing the border defenses again. For millennia, the galaxy had kept these mysterious attackers at bay using well-established defensive positions and response protocols. The system had worked perfectly for thousands of years. But now, for the first time in recorded history, Void Hunter scouts were penetrating deeper into civilized space. Sir, reported Lieutenant Kavesh, the enemy ships are using the same attack patterns they've always used. Our defenses should be stopping them easily. Commander Thexel studied the tactical displays. Everything looked normal. The defensive grids were in place. The response fleets were positioned correctly. The early warning systems were functioning. So why were the Void Hunters getting through? Run a full diagnostic on all defense systems, he ordered. Hours later, the results came back. Every system was working perfectly, but the reports from the outer rim told a different story. Sir, Lieutenant Kavesh said quietly, I've been reviewing historical battle records. Our defensive strategies have been modified 1,247 times over the past 3 centuries. That's normal, Commander Thexel replied. We continuously improve our methods. Yes, sir, but I checked the origins of these modifications. 91% of them came from suggestions made by human officers serving in joint operations. The commander felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. You're saying humans have been improving our defenses for 300 years? It appears so, sir. Small changes, mostly. Adjustments to patrol routes, modifications to response timing, new ways to coordinate between different fleet types. The humans called them minor optimizations. Commander Thexel looked at the map, showing Void Hunter incursions. Without those minor optimizations, the ancient defensive strategies were failing against an enemy that had adapted over centuries to fight an evolving defense. In the Galactic Council chambers, these reports began arriving like drops of rain before a storm. Each individual problem seemed small and manageable, but together, they painted a disturbing picture. The galaxy's systems were breaking down. Ambassador Kethvar tried to dismiss the reports. These are temporary adjustments, he announced to the Council. The galaxy is simply learning to function without unnecessary human interference. But privately, he was beginning to worry. The problems weren't getting smaller. They were getting bigger. And in the silence that the Council had worked so hard to achieve, no one was asking the questions that might lead to solutions. No one was suggesting the creative approaches that might fix the unexpected problems. No one was providing the chaotic, illogical, somehow effective human perspective that had become more important than anyone realized. The galaxy was learning to be quiet, but it was also learning that sometimes silence was not golden. 1 year after the Great Silence began, the Galactic Council faced its first emergency session in over 2 centuries. The grand chamber that had once echoed with complaints about human chatter now buzzed with panicked voices from 12 desperate civilizations. Ambassador Kethvar stood before the central display, but his confident demeanor had vanished. The holographic map of the galaxy now showed red warning zones across nearly every sector. What had started as minor inconveniences had grown into major crises. The situation has become serious, he admitted, his voice lacking its former authority. Captain, Zorak of the Altarian Trade Confederation stepped forward first. Our trade networks are collapsing. Pirate attacks have increased by 400%. But worse than that, legitimate disputes between trading partners are going unsolved. He activated his section of the display. Look at this contract disagreement between the Mineral Consortium and the Agricultural Guild. In the past, this would have been resolved in days. Now it's been going on for 8 months. Both sides refuse to compromise. Counselor Velthane flickered with distress. What does this have to do with pirates? Everything, Zorak replied. When trade breaks down, some people turn to piracy. When disputes drag on forever, entire shipping companies go bankrupt. When companies fail, their security forces look for new jobs, often with the pirates. The Silicon Authority's representative spoke in its mechanical voice. Our manufacturing efficiency has decreased by 37%. Quality control systems that functioned perfectly for millennia are now producing defective products. How is that possible? Asked Dr. Veltara from the Nexari Imperium. We have discovered that our production methods were continuously refined by suggestions from human engineers visiting our facilities. These modifications were so small and frequent that we never documented them properly. Without ongoing optimization, our systems have begun to deteriorate. Senior Analyst Kektar of the Crystalline Collective stood next. Her usually calm species appeared agitated. We have lost access to 17 asteroid mining fields. Our navigation, computers cannot handle the irregular patterns these fields have developed. She displayed footage of a massive mining ship trying to navigate through floating rocks. The ship moved with perfect precision, following exact calculations, but the asteroid seemed to dance around it unpredictably. We have identified the problem, Chektar continued. These asteroid fields were previously mapped and navigated by human exploration teams. Their chaotic flight patterns somehow found safe paths through impossible terrain. Our logical approaches cannot replicate their success. Dr. Veltara activated her own data display. I have completed a comprehensive analysis of galactic productivity since the communication blackout began. The results are disturbing. Charts and graphs filled the air around the council members. Every single metric showed the same pattern: steady improvement for 3 centuries, followed by sudden decline starting exactly 12 months ago. Diplomatic resolution success is down 62%, Dr. Veltara reported. Interspecies cooperation projects have decreased by 45%. Innovation in technology and medicine has dropped to levels not seen since before humans joined galactic society. The most shocking graph appeared last. It showed the number of successful first contact missions with new species. For 300 years, the galaxy averaged 12 new species joining our community each year, Dr. Veltara explained. This year, we have had 0 successful first contacts. All attempts have failed due to communication breakdowns or cultural misunderstandings. Commander Thexel of the Void Watch delivered the most frightening report of all. The Void Hunters have broken through our outer perimeter. For the first time in recorded history, they have established forward bases inside civilized space. The chamber fell silent. The Void Hunters were the galaxy's oldest enemy, mysterious beings from the dark space between stars. For thousands of years, the galaxy's combined fleets had kept them contained in the outer void. How many bases? Asked Kethvar. 47. That we know of, Commander Thexel replied. They appear overnight fully operational. Our response fleets arrive to find nothing but empty space. Then the bases reappear somewhere else. He showed tactical recordings of the failed responses. Galactic forces arrived at attack sites in perfect formation, followed exact protocols, and achieved nothing. The enemy uses the same tactics they've always used, Commander Thexel continued. But our responses no longer work. Analysis shows that our defensive strategies had been modified continuously for 3 centuries. Small changes that individually seemed unimportant. Let me guess, said Counselor Velthane wearily. Human modifications. Correct. Human military advisors had been fine-tuning our responses based on their analysis of Void Hunter behavior. They identified patterns that our computers missed. They suggested timing changes that seemed random, but proved effective. Without these ongoing adjustments, our ancient strategies are failing against an enemy that has been adapting to an evolving defense. The Ethereal Dominion's representative posed the question that everyone was thinking. Are you saying that humans were essential to our military defense? Commander Thexel nodded grimly. They were our adaptive element. While we maintained our proven methods, they provided the constant small innovations that kept those methods effective against a changing enemy. Ambassador Kethavar tried to maintain his authority. Surely we can develop new strategies without human input. We have tried, Commander Thexel replied. Our best tactical computers have generated 40,000 new defensive configurations. The Void Hunters have defeated every single one. How? They test each new strategy once, learn its weaknesses, then counter it perfectly. Our logical approaches are predictable. The humans provided unpredictability that the enemy couldn't counter. Dr. Veltara pulled up another disturbing chart. I have identified the core problem. For 3 centuries, humans served as the galaxy's innovation engine. They asked questions we never thought to ask. They suggested solutions we never considered. They connected ideas from different fields in ways that seemed random but produced breakthrough results. The chart showed a complex web connecting thousands of technological advances, diplomatic successes, and strategic improvements. Lines traced from human involvement to successful outcomes across every aspect of galactic civilization. Without human input, Dr. Veltara continued, our civilization has become static. We can maintain existing systems, but we cannot adapt to new challenges. The weight of realization settled over the council chamber. For 300 years, they had complained about human interference, while unknowingly depending on it for their civilization's continued growth and adaptation. There's more, said Captain Zorak quietly. We've been monitoring long-range sensors in the direction of human space. Their activity has increased dramatically since the blackout began. He displayed sensor readings showing massive construction projects, new colonies, and expansion into previously unexplored regions. They're not waiting for us to reconnect with them, Zorak continued. They're building their own civilization, and from what we can detect, they're building it better than what we have. Ambassador Kethvar stared at the display showing human expansion. The species he had dismissed as annoying chatterboxes were thriving in isolation, while the rest of the galaxy struggled with problems they couldn't solve. How long would it take to restore communication with the human systems? He asked quietly. Chief Technician consulted his tablet. The quantum relay stations were completely dismantled. Rebuilding the network to reach Sol system would take at least 8 months, possibly longer. And how long do we have before the Void Hunters reach the core systems? Commander Thexel checked his tactical displays. At their current rate of advancement, 6 months. The mathematics were simple and terrifying. The galaxy would fall to its ancient enemy before communication with humanity could be restored. In the silence that followed, every council member understood the same terrible truth. They had cut themselves off from the one species that might have been able to save them. The great silence they had worked so hard to achieve had become the sound of their own doom approaching. 2 years after the great silence began, the Galactic Council met in permanent emergency session. The once grand chamber now looked like a military command center, with tactical displays showing the advancing Void Hunter forces and status reports from collapsing civilizations across the galaxy. Ambassador Kethvar no longer stood at the speaking platform. Instead, he sat hunched in his chair, studying reports that grew worse each day. The proud leader who had championed the communication blackout now looked like a being who hadn't slept in months. Status report from the Outer Rim, Commander Thexel announced without ceremony. Military protocol had replaced diplomatic politeness weeks ago. Void Hunter forces have established permanent bases in 47 core systems, he continued. Our defensive lines have collapsed completely. At current advancement rates, they will reach the Council worlds within 60 days. The chamber filled with worried murmurs from species that had never shown fear before. What about the new defensive strategies? Asked Dr. Veltara. Failed, Commander Thexel replied bluntly. All of them. Our tactical computers have generated over 200,000 possible defense configurations. The Void Hunters adapt to each one within hours. Captain Zorak of the Altarian Trade Confederation spoke up from his emergency communication station. The situation in civilian sectors is equally dire. Our trade networks have collapsed entirely. Pirate fleets now control more territory than legitimate governments in 3 sectors. The pirates are using captured military equipment, added the Silicon Authority's representative. Equipment they obtained when our defense forces abandoned their posts to defend against Void Hunter attacks. Senior analyst Kektar projected new data into the center of the chamber. Resource production is down 78%. Mining operations have ceased in all contested areas. Agricultural worlds are refusing to ship food to systems that cannot guarantee payment. Civilization is breaking down, she concluded simply. Counselor Velthane flickered with desperation. What about the reconstruction of the communication network? How long until we can contact the humans? The chief technician looked uncomfortable. The original estimate was 8 months. However, we've encountered unexpected problems. Many of the relay stations were more integrated with human technology than we realized. Without their technical documentation, rebuilding is proving extremely difficult. How long? Kethvar demanded. At least 6 more months. Possibly longer. We don't have 6 months, Commander Thexel said grimly. We have 60 days at most. The chamber fell into the kind of silence that had nothing to do with peace. It was the silence of despair. Dr. Veltara activated her personal display. I have been analyzing the human expansion that we detected earlier. The results are significant. The display showed a map of local space extending far beyond the traditional boundaries of galactic civilization. Human settlements dotted dozens of systems that had never been explored by council species. They haven't just been expanding, Dr. Veltara explained. They've been building alliances. Our long-range sensors detect trade relationships with at least 30 species that are completely unknown to us. How is that possible? Asked the Crystalline Collective's representative. Humans excel at first contact situations, Dr. Veltara replied. They approach unknown species with curiosity rather than caution. They adapt their communication methods to each new culture. They find common ground where others see only differences. She highlighted several contact points on the map. In 2 years of isolation, they have doubled their sphere of influence. Their new allies provide resources, technology, and strategic positions that we never had access to. Captain Zorak leaned forward. Are you saying the humans are stronger now than when we cut them off? Much stronger, Dr. Veltara confirmed. And more importantly, they've learned to thrive without us. A new alarm sounded in the chamber. Commander Thexel checked his tactical display and went pale. Void Hunter forces have just launched a coordinated assault on 17 core systems simultaneously, he announced. This is unprecedented. They've never been able to organize attacks of this scale before. How many of our forces can respond? Asked Kethvar. None, Commander Thexel replied. All available fleets are already engaged or protecting critical systems. We have no strategic reserve left. The reality of their situation crashed down on the Council like a collapsing star. The greatest military alliance in galactic history was powerless against an enemy they had contained for millennia. We need to send a message to Sol System immediately, Counselor Velthane said urgently. Use emergency communication methods. Ancient quantum burst transmissions, anything that might reach them. The chief technician shook his head. We tried that last month. The humans have changed all their communication frequencies and encryption methods. Even if we could transmit a message, we have no way to encode it in a format they would recognize. They've moved on, Captain Zorak said quietly. While we've been struggling with problems we can't solve, they've been advancing beyond our ability to contact them. Dr. Veltara pulled up more data from the sensor networks. There's something else. Our sensors detect massive construction projects in human space, not just colonies or mining stations. These appear to be military installations of unknown design. The display showed energy signatures unlike anything in the Council's databases. Huge structures that seem to generate power on scales that Council technology couldn't match. They're building weapons, Commander Thexel said with certainty. But the designs are completely foreign to our understanding. Better than ours? Asked Kithvar. Different and possibly much more advanced. The implications hung in the air like a toxic cloud. While the galaxy's traditional powers had stagnated and declined, humanity had been advancing at an accelerated pace. Ambassador Kethvar stood slowly, his movements showing the weight of his failures. I need to ask the question that we're all thinking. If we somehow managed to contact the humans today, why would they help us? The chamber fell silent again. It was a question no one wanted to answer. We cut them off without warning, Kethvar continued. We dismissed their contributions as annoyances. We made it clear that we considered them inferior and unwanted. They're humans, said Captain Zorak hopefully. They always want to help others. Do they? Dr. Veltara asked. Or do they help people who treat them as equals? People who appreciate their contributions? People who ask for their help rather than demand? She displayed historical records of human diplomatic behavior. Analysis shows that humans respond positively to requests for assistance from allies and partners, but they have a strong negative reaction to being taken for granted or dismissed. You're saying they might refuse to help us? Counselor Velthane said. I'm saying we have no right to expect their help, Dr. Veltara replied. We spent 3 centuries treating them as junior partners while secretly depending on their innovations. Then we cut them off completely when their enthusiasm became inconvenient. Commander Thexel received another urgent message. Void Hunter, forces have broken through the Altarian defense grid. The entire sector is falling. The reality was undeniable. The galaxy was collapsing, and its former protectors were too advanced and too distant to reach. But in the depths of space, unknown. To the failing Council, human ships were already moving toward the battlefronts. Not because they had been asked for help, but because they had detected the Void Hunter advancement on their own long-range sensors. The question wasn't whether humans would come to the galaxy's aid. The question was whether the galaxy deserved to be saved, and what price humanity would demand for cleaning up the mess that their former colleagues had created. The emergency transmission came at the darkest hour of the galactic crisis. After months of desperate attempts to rebuild communication systems, a simple message appeared on every council display simultaneously. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Coalition. We need to talk. In the council chambers, 12 species that had been facing extinction suddenly felt something they hadn't experienced in 2 years. Hope, Ambassador Kethvar, who had barely slept in weeks, stared at the communication screen with disbelief. Admiral Chen, thank the void you received our distress signals. There was a pause before Admiral Chen responded. Her voice carried a tone that Kethvar couldn't quite identify. Actually, we didn't receive any distress signals. Our communication networks have been completely independent of galactic systems for over a year now. Then how did you know to contact us? We've been monitoring the Void Hunter expansion through our own sensor networks, Admiral Chen replied calmly. We noticed they had broken through your traditional defense lines about 6 months ago. Commander Thexel leaned forward urgently. Admiral, we need immediate military assistance. The Void Hunters have taken 47 core systems and are advancing on the Council worlds. Our defenses have completely failed. Yes, we're aware of the situation, Admiral Chen said. We've actually been tracking Void Hunter movements for the past 18 months. Interesting species. Very adaptable to conventional military strategies. Dr. Velterra activated her display. Admiral, our analysis shows that human military innovations were crucial to containing the Void Hunters for the past 3 centuries. Without those innovations, our defenses became static and predictable. That's a reasonable assessment, Admiral Chen agreed. Though I should mention that our understanding of Void Hunter behavior has advanced considerably since we began independent research. Captain Zorak spoke up desperately. Admiral, can you help us? We know we made mistakes by cutting off communication, but civilian populations across the galaxy are dying. Another pause, longer this time. When Admiral Chen spoke again, her tone had shifted slightly. Captain, I want to be very clear about our current situation. When the Council terminated all communications with human space, we didn't just lose touch with galactic civilization. We were forced to become completely self-sufficient. The display screen activated, showing a view from Admiral Chen's location. The Council members gasped. Instead of a simple military bridge, they were looking at a massive command center that dwarfed anything in their experience. Advanced displays showed tactical information from across the galaxy, including real-time positions of Void Hunter forces that the Council's own sensors couldn't detect. In the past 2 years, Admiral Chen continued, we've established diplomatic relations with 47 species that were unknown to the Council. We've developed new technologies that solve the resource and security problems that were plaguing our isolated systems. And we've built a defense network that extends far beyond our original territory. Counselor Velthane flickered with nervous energy. Admiral, are you saying that humanity no longer needs the galactic community? I'm saying that we've learned an important lesson about depending on others for our survival, Admiral Chen replied. The question isn't whether we need you. The question is whether you're willing to accept the kind of partnership we're prepared to offer. Ambassador Kethvar felt a chill of understanding. What kind of partnership? Full equality, Admiral. Chen said simply. No more treating human suggestions as annoying interference. No more dismissing our methods as chaotic or illogical. No more cutting us off when our enthusiasm becomes inconvenient. She gestured to something off-screen, and the display expanded to show a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red zones marked Void Hunter territory, but blue zones showed something unexpected, areas where Void Hunter forces had been stopped and pushed back. We've been engaging Void Hunter forces for the past 8 months, Admiral Chen explained. Not because anyone asked us to, but because their expansion threatened some of our new allies. Commander Thexel studied the tactical display with amazement. How are you stopping them? Our best strategies failed completely. We approached the problem differently, Admiral Chen said. Instead of trying to predict what they'll do and counter it, we focus on being unpredictable ourselves. Void Hunters adapt to logical patterns, but they struggle with truly chaotic responses. She highlighted several battle sites. We use what our allies call human tactics. Apparently, that's become a term for strategies that work, despite making no sense to conventional military thinking. Dr. Veltara leaned forward. Admiral, would you be willing to share these new tactics with our forces? That depends, Admiral Chen replied. Are you prepared to accept human officers in command positions? Are you willing to let us modify your defensive strategies without spending months debating every change in committee? The silence in the council chamber was deafening. For species that had ruled the galaxy for millennia, the idea of accepting human leadership was almost unthinkable. Almost. Admiral, Kethvar said slowly. What exactly are you proposing? A new galactic alliance, Admiral Chen replied. One where humanity is an equal partner, not a junior member seeking approval. We'll help you deal with the Void Hunter crisis, but afterwards, we negotiate a completely new relationship. What would that relationship look like? Admiral Chen smiled, for the first time during the conversation. Well, for starters, we'll need to introduce you to our new allies. Some of them have technologies and perspectives that could benefit the entire galaxy, and we'll need to restructure the decision-making process to include more flexible thinking. Captain, Zorak asked the question that everyone was thinking. What if we refuse? Admiral Chen's expression remained friendly, but her tone became matter-of-fact. Then you deal with the Void Hunter crisis on your own. We'll continue protecting our allies and expanding our own civilization. The galaxy is a big place. There's room for multiple power structures. The implication was clear. Humanity had moved beyond needing the Council's approval. They were offering partnership, not begging for acceptance. Commander Thexel checked his displays and went pale. Admiral, we have immediate tactical situation. Void Hunter forces are approaching the Council homeworlds. Estimated arrival in 48 hours. We're aware, Admiral Chen said calmly. Human battle groups are already in position around the threatened systems. How is that possible? We've been tracking their movements for weeks. Our ships are faster and more maneuverable than traditional Council vessels. We can be anywhere in the galaxy within days. She gestured again, and the display showed sleek human ships taking positions around Council worlds. Their design was unlike anything the Council had seen before, clearly evolved from centuries of human innovation, working without galactic oversight. Admiral, Kethvar said quietly, if we agree to your terms, will you stop the Void Hunter assault? We'll do more than stop it, Admiral Chen replied. We'll end the Void Hunter threat permanently. But first we need your agreement to the new partnership structure. Dr. Veltara spoke for the entire Council. What choice do we have? Admiral Chen's smile widened. You always have choices, but I'm hoping you'll choose to work with us as equals, this time. The vote was swift and unanimous, though for very different reasons than the vote 2 years earlier. This time they voted not from arrogance, but from necessity. Within hours, human ships engaged Void Hunter forces throughout the galaxy. The ancient enemy that had threatened civilization for millennia was systematically destroyed by tactics that made no sense to anyone except the humans who had developed them. But the real change came afterwards, when the galaxy learned what it meant to be partners with a species that had learned to thrive on their own. The age of human dependence was over. The age of human leadership had begun. And in the end, the galaxy discovered that sometimes the best way to achieve peace and prosperity was to embrace a little chaos and ask a lot more questions.